Scent of the evening, I am wearing a fragrance that is not wildly popular, but I like a lot of not wildly popular fragrances. And it's this one, Aromatics in Black by Clinique. Clinique has a few fragrances. They used to have my favorite male profile fragrance, which was Chemistry. And of course, I still talk about it to this day that I can't find Chemistry because they stopped making it. You will find it listed on eBay, but the reality is that they're used bottles. And so, because they're dead stock, I guess you would call it, they are extremely expensive. So I love it, but I don't love it that much. But anyway, Aromatics in Black, which came after Aromatics Elixir, which is one of their signature fragrances. Aromatics Elixir is gorgeous. I love it, but it's a floral chypre. And a floral chypre is more like a bit of a white floral sitting on top of an oak moss or something earthy. That's that kind of scent. This is a little bit different because this is more amber and woody. Did you get a woody? It's amber, it's woods in the base, but then there's a white floral on top of it. So they're both equally gorgeous. They're just, they're two different profiles. I do love a floral chypre. A floral chypre is like dry. It's a bit dry in scent, but I love it. So this is not. This is a term that you don't really use anymore. But it's a term that's used in fragrance or rugs. And that is calling the fragrance an oriental fragrance. We don't use that term. That is not an acceptable term, certainly not to describe a people or a person specifically. But in fragrance, for some reason, it's still somehow acceptable. And also, in rugs or in possessions. But that's what this would be considered in the fragrance world. It would be considered an oriental floral. And I do love that as a profile for sure. But if you like something like that, this is based in myrrh. I would say tonka bean, maybe vetiver, but the floral on it it's not like a sweet floral. Oh shit. So if you don't like anything too terribly sweet, this would be good for you. I mean, I could say a little bit powdery, but not powdery the way Chanel No. 5 is powdery. Certainly not. And of course, I love Chanel No. 5. I'll be honest with you, I don't really have any fragrances that I don't like. I have plenty that I love, but I don't have any where I'm like, oh God, I just can't be around it. Like, there's just some that I prefer more than others, and there's plenty that I love to pieces. And I don't have the biggest library of fragrances, to be honest with you. Fragrance is always a great gift for someone who it's a great gift for someone who loves fragrance, because they'll always, if somebody truly loves fragrance, they'll always find a place or a way to wear a fragrance. For me, I mean, it's definitely seasonal, and the weather will predict for me what I feel like wearing. I do have, in recent years, had an obsession with oud as a fragrance or an ingredient in fragrances. But for me, oud is very warm, so it makes me think of the fall and winter. Something really juicy and floral reminds me of warmer weather. So my perfume of the night is from the White Diamonds collection. I've worn before white diamonds. I've talked about diamonds and sapphires. I've talked about diamonds and rubies, diamonds and emeralds, which I have not worn diamonds and emeralds recently because I don't have a bottle of it. But I do have a bottle. I just don't have an open bottle. Sparkling White Diamonds is part of the Diamonds collection. The Diamonds collection is obviously Elizabeth Taylor's second perfume. Her first perfume was Passion. But the White Diamonds sort of franchise or collection came out in the early 90s. I want to say 1991. And this version I'm wearing right now, is one that I saw and I had never smelled before. I didn't even know it existed. And I'm surprised I didn't know because I love Elizabeth Taylor stuff. And I saw it and then I couldn't find it. And then a couple of people found it and sent it to me. So this is Elizabeth Taylor's White Diamond En Rouge. En Rouge. And the difference, you can't, I don't know if it reads here, but most of them are like an amber color. This one is literally, I think the bottle's tinted red. But the typical bottle, the White Diamonds bottle, is that shape, that cap. And this was sent to me by Nightmare Dressed Daydream, who might be in here now. Nightmare Dressed Daydream sent this to me like probably a month and a half ago. But I had been saving it. And then also Detox sent me the same fragrance and was like, I saw that you were looking for it and I found it. And I love it. I love it. Tonight is my first night wearing it, ever. First night smelling this fragrance, first night opening the bottle, opening the box, opening the bottle. The base, it's got that base, that typical, remember I was talking the last time, if you were here, I was talking about like when you make a soup and you make a base, that, what is that, mirepoix, I guess they call it. And it's, carrots, celery, onions, it's that base. The base for a good perfume for me, my profile, is going to be musk, patchouli, sandalwood, vanilla. Like if that's the base and that's what I'm left with, I'm going to be happy. This one that's the base here. That is the base that's happening here. But it also has notes of jasmine. Definitely what I get from this, like the payoff I get from this, is raspberry. I get raspberry, a little orange, it's a bit peppery too. There's like a peppery sort of, and not a lot of fragrances have that level of peppery that this one does. It's not incredibly floral. There is jasmine and some rose to it, but it's not a floral, strong floral. Sorry, that went up. You definitely get that vanilla's in there. A lot of these elements are in that same cashmere that I wore a couple of nights ago. But it responds entirely different. Like it smells different. The payoff is different. I like them both equally, but this really has a raspberry to me. I smell raspberry in this and something peppery. So I love this. This is beautiful. Nightmare Dressed Daydream is who sent this to me. And it's White Diamonds En Rouge. And listen, I will wear any White Diamonds, any of the White Diamonds collection. Maybe it's because I really like that bottle like this. Do you like bottles like this? Oh God. Okay. I think my go-to in a fragrance is usually something based in, again, something that again in the fragrance world is called an oriental fragrance. But I like things that are very spicy, that are heavily floral. I do like musk in a base. I do like sandalwood. I love myrrh. I love oud. I usually don't have a need for something really light and fresh unless it's just like really hot out. In the quote male profile fragrances, I personally really do like Calvin Klein fragrances. A lot of people find that to be a bit pedestrian or basic, but I like the freshness of Calvin Klein fragrances. I still like to wear Escape. Certain fragrances do remind you of a time and date for sure. So I was talking about Beautiful by Estee Lauder the other day. Beautiful came out in 1985 and smells like 1985. If you know what I'm talking about when it comes to fragrance, it's that thing. It's classic, it's beautiful, but no pun intended. But you can actually, when you smell Beautiful, you can also, like, depending upon what your experience is, I can correlate it to like a sassy older lady, like with a cigarette in her mouth. That's just, I'm not saying that's what the fragrance smells like. It reminds me of certain people in certain times. For me, Youth Dew, it just reminds me of somebody who very possibly only wears that fragrance. Youth Dew is so specific. Chanel No. 5 is so specific that they are definitely fragrances that the people who wear those are usually like people that you just buy them a bottle of that because that's what they wear. You know what I mean? That's their fragrance profile. And that's fine. My number one, usually the fragrance there's a lot of fragrances that I have always a bottle of, but I'll always have a bottle of Coco by Chanel. Like, Coco is my go-to. It is very strong, but But in that same vein, something else like Coco, I love Knowing by Lancome. I love Youth Dew. I love Magie Noire. Those are just really strong. Yeah, Detox is right. You can picture a Youth Dew woman. And here's the interesting thing about Youth Dew. Youth Dew, when it came out as a bath oil. It was never intended to be a spray on or roll on fragrance. But because of the popularity, when it came out, women, quote unquote, maybe people who presented as male were doing it as well, but they found that their customer base was women, would wear the oil as a perfume. And so they began to sell that. So when you buy Youth Dew as a perfume, I believe it's sold in a 2.5 ounce, which isn't the most popular size. Usually it's a 1 ounce, a 1.7, or a 3.4. But they sell a 2.5. A lot of their fragrances are 2.5. But it's not a terribly expensive fragrance in the world of fragrance. But it just smells like money, and it smells inviting. It certainly can be overwhelming if you wear too much of it. One of my mom's go-tos is Youth Dew, and it's just something about it is very stately, and the formulation hasn't really changed. If you liked something like Youth Dew, or you liked something like Knowing, or certainly like Coco, if you liked that but you didn't want to spend the money on something like that. I mean, Youth Dew is honestly like $42. It's not, that's a lot of money. It's not $1, but in the world of fragrance, there's many fragrances in that same that you can buy in the same department store that would be triple that, if not quadruple that price. But people who like that might also like fragrances that are more easily accessible, like at Target, at Walmart, at a drugstore. And one of those I can really tell you that I do love is give me a second. Taboo. Not taboo, not Taboo. Taboo, Tabu. It is heady and heavy and spicy and juicy, and it's one of those ones, I mean, you spray it on one time, wow. My Tia Rosie always wore Taboo, and my mom wore Taboo. My friend Big D, who I was just doing her little birthday thing, she just gave me a bottle of something that took me back. And that is, she gave me a bottle, not the original, probably not original from the 80s, but still the same formulation, of Ciara. Now, not the singer Ciara, but a perfume called Ciara from the 80s. It came in a yellow box, and then the bottle is just that dark amber. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous fragrance, but yet again, a lot of people are afraid of something when they smell it because they'll think, oh, it's, I'm going to smell overwhelming. But you have to remember, when it hits your body and it mixes with you. But I will say this, you shouldn't have to learn to love a fragrance. Like, if you love it and you connect with it, and that's the one you want to wear, that's the one that you should wear. It's about finding the balance, I think, of how much you want to wear. My mom, I always make sure that she has, as far as her Youth Dew, I like to have her have the shower or the bath gel. She has a body powder, the radiance, the cream, and the perfume, because she likes to layer it so that it lasts longer. Not all fragrances carry stuff like that. She absolutely loves Angel, and another completely different profile, but also strong and powerful. But she's able to get, I'm able to get her those products as well. So that's something that I wish all fragrances still had that. But the market is different. The expectation of people, the amount of time people have to get ready, it's just not everybody's fortunate to have the amount of time to get ready that involves all the layering of fragrance. It's a luxury that not everybody is able to have anymore. Certainly not this year. Well, maybe this year, actually. You would have more time to do that. But, I love Bijan. Oh, I love Bijan. Opium. Thank you. Joseph Mejia just said opium. That's another fragrance that I always have a bottle of, and my mom always has a bottle of as well. And the dusting powder is gorgeous. I love Poison by Dior. I love, 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 love. I miss Dune. Do you remember Dune? This is a fragrance that I don't, that I've talked about before, but it was just a fragrance I wanted to wear. So it doesn't hurt to talk about them again, because maybe not everybody knows. But it is a fragrance that I wear consistently, and I will never stop wearing. If you like a warm, spicy fragrance, if you like something that's slightly balsamic, and I'll get into that in a minute. I don't mean balsamic vinaigrette, although similar. But if you like something amber and warm, spicy, a legendary fragrance is Opium by Yves Saint Laurent. And I love, love Opium. I wear Opium all the time. It's a heavy fragrance. This is a fragrance that is based in patchouli, vanilla, amber, apopanox. Basically, there's a lot of resin in this fragrance. And resin in a fragrance is basically from a tree, very often sap from a tree. This opens with like mandarin, vetiver, I would say, bergamot, lily in this. But the heart of this fragrance is myrrh and jasmine. Myrrh and jasmine would be in the heart of this fragrance. Not a particularly inexpensive fragrance. It is pricey, Opium by Yves Saint Laurent, but it's very worth it, and it's very simple. No, I don't want to say simple. I take that word back. It's very specific. I will tell you that this may not be a popular description of this fragrance, but I'm going to throw it out there. It has many of the components that would be in what would typically be considered a male profiled fragrance. And it also has a lot of components that remind me of Old Spice in a way, if you remember what Old Spice smells like. This has a lot of those elements, and that what's in that, what is really suggesting that is the balsamic nature of this fragrance. A balsamic nature in a fragrance, if you ever, and I don't have a lot of them that specifically have that, but when somebody refers to a fragrance as being balsamic in nature, it means that it is comes from resin, comes from tree resin specifically. Myrrh is balsamic in a way. It's sticky sweet. Balsamic is like sticky sweet in a way. And so that's what gives you this. This is amber, vanilla, balsamic. Like apopanox, which is which is another type of tree resin. Some people say smells like crushed ivy, and it creates a smokiness. So when you smell this fragrance, you're talking about not just the myrrh and not just the amber that's in it, but the balsamic nature of this really, really comes through. And I'm telling you, some people might say, "Oh, this smells like a man's cologne." And I don't really subscribe to the theory that a fragrance is for a man or a fragrance is for a woman. I think a fragrance is a feeling and how it makes you feel. This is a sexy fragrance. This is a mysterious fragrance. This is a fragrance that is in control. And this is a fragrance that reveals itself to you. Not in the beginning, because it invites with something much lighter, but there's still a heaviness that continues all the way through. Opium by Yves Saint Laurent is just one of my favorites. It's absolutely one of my favorites. A recommendation for the application of fragrance and how much to apply, or is it based on each? It's definitely based on each individual fragrance. I would say pulse points, pressure points for sure. My biggest suggestion about putting fragrance on, and it seems like, and this is something I used to do, it would seem when you watch people put fragrance on, in a movie or something, you always see people spray it and go, "Oh yes, oh I love it, oh my god." That's something you don't want to do, actually. Fragrance is, see, if I'm so mad about this thing, fragrance is generally 3 layers: a base note, a middle note, and a top note. And what happens is when you do that, when you start rubbing the fragrance, you're breaking down the first and second note for sure. So those things that welcome people in. Imagine the top and the middle note are kind of like a welcome mat in a way. It's what brings people in, or maybe I guess I would call it the star of the movie, right? So the star of a movie could be, or the star of the fragrance is the top note, the thing that people go, wow, I need this fragrance. It smells so good. The co-star in my mind is the middle note, because that's what connects the star and the base. And the base in my mind is the person who wrote the screenplay, because you essentially really were connected to the story. And then there's people that told the story and facilitated it. But that base is what lasts when you've been wearing the fragrance for a while throughout the day. So the base is very important. So doing that, rubbing it too much is, or at all, really breaks down those notes. So yeah, I would say that. I would say that's the best bet. But your wrists are a good spot. Back here is nice. Here is nice. That's pretty. I think that's a nice way. But honestly, wherever you want, you can. I will say this: the concentration, obviously, of fragrance. So a body spray would be the least amount of oil content in a fragrance. That's why it's least expensive. The next step up would be an eau de toilette. Then the next step up would be a cologne, and then an eau de parfum. And then past that, which is very unusual to find, but you used to be able to find it back in the day, would be a perfume solid, which is the oil mixed with petroleum jelly in like a little disc that you would, do that there. I would say, when it comes to spraying perfume on, it's nice to spray it on your clothes, but remember, the more oil something has in it, the more there's the ability for it to stain. So say you're wearing a white blouse and you have a brand new bottle of perfume, and you get that perfume and you go, oh, I really want it in there, and you get it too close, the oil will stain. So you want to be mindful that you don't want to bring your clothing, But I mean, shit, who doesn't want to spray perfume on their chonies? You know what I mean? Like, you want people to smell it. You want people to, listen, perfume is no substitute for a fucking bath. So please be sure to take a bath and towel dry properly, and get in the creases, and get that wash rag going, and get that loofah going, and pull back skins, and do whatever it is wherever it doesn't get to see the water. Make sure it all hits water, and it all air dries, and it all towel dries. And then you start layering your fragrance on, because you want to smell it on clean skin. You don't want it to, you're not trying to mask like famunda and butt cheese. You know what I mean? Like, that's not, no.